Welcome to our special report on Trump Federal, January 6th. This legal battle is led by Special Counsel Jack Smith and focuses on the events at the Capitol. The prosecution argues that there was a concerted effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. The core of this case revolves around allegations of conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstruction of an official proceeding. Legal experts are watching this closely as it challenges the boundaries of executive power and presidential conduct while in office. The evidence presented includes communications between top officials and witness testimony from inside the White House. This case is historic as it marks the first time a former president has faced federal charges related to the transfer of power, making it a defining moment for the American judicial system. Moving on to our second major topic, which is the Supreme Court immunity claim ruling. This is perhaps the most critical procedural hurdle in the legal calendar. The nation is waiting to see if the highest court grants absolute immunity to former presidents for actions taken during their term. The decision here will directly impact the timing of other trials because a ruling in favor of immunity could dismiss several charges entirely. On the other hand, a denial of immunity would clear the path for prosecutors to move forward to trial immediately. This uncertainty has created potential delays across multiple jurisdictions, leaving the legal schedule in a state of flux. The justices are balancing the need for accountability with the need to protect the independence of the executive branch for future generations. Our third case takes us to Georgia for the RICO election interference case, which has recently been focused on District Attorney Fani Willis and the challenges to her qualifications. This state-level prosecution uses the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act to target multiple defendants involved in post-election activities. The defense has raised questions regarding potential conflicts of interest and professional conduct within the prosecutor's office. These procedural challenges have become a central point of contention, slowing down the actual trial on the merits. The world is watching how the Georgia court system handles these complex issues while attempting to maintain public trust in the legal process. The outcome here remains a critical piece of the broader legal puzzle surrounding the 2020 election cycle. The fourth case on our list is the Florida Documents Retention Trial, which deals with the handling of classified information at Mar-a-Lago. This case has seen significant scheduling delays under the supervision of Judge Aileen Cannon. The legal arguments here concern the proper storage of sensitive national security records and the legal authority of the government to recover them. There have been numerous motions filed regarding discovery and the Classified Information Procedures Act, which complicates the timeline for a jury trial. The prosecution claims the defendant willfully retained documents, while the defense argues procedural overreach by the Department of Justice. These delays mean that a final verdict before the next election is increasingly unlikely, which adds a layer of political complexity to an already complicated legal battle. Finally, we look at the Supreme Court secure a gun rule case, which is a major challenge to gun control regulations across the country. This case examines the Second Amendment rights in the context of modern firearms, restrictions, and public safety laws. The arguments center on whether specific state and federal limitations on gun ownership and carrying rights are constitutional under the current legal framework. Advocates for gun rights argue that any restriction is an infringement on personal liberty, while the government argues that reasonable limitations are necessary to prevent violence and protect citizens. The ruling from the Supreme Court will set a massive precedent for how local governments can regulate firearms in the future, and it represents one of the most significant shifts in constitutional law for this decade.